So welcome students. In this lesson, I want to show you a couple different things. We'll run through using the hole feature and then making a circular array of one hole. And we'll also go through setting up a work plane, a new work plane that you can sketch on. And we'll run through those things. And these will be tools that you will need for doing the 3D models of the housing. Well, the housing in particular, some of it you can apply to the flange part as well, but mostly this is for the housing. Okay, so we'll get started. I'll create a sketch on this vertical plane, and I'm going to create a cylinder similar to what we have on our housing. So I'm just going to find the diameter that we want to space these circles along. So it's 80 millimeters. And we can exit the circle tool and make this a construction line. Okay, and one more thing I'm going to do is create a reference center line to help constrain and locate our hole that we'll be making with the hole feature. Oops, make that a construction line again. Now we'll select this line and create a center line. All right, so what you can do when you're still in a sketch is you can actually, oh no, scratch that. So I'm going to finish the sketch and I'm going to extrude it to make the cylinder. And it is 50 millimeters deep. And I will make that sketch visible. So now we can use it to erase some holes on the end of this part. So I'll use the hole feature that we looked at last week, and I will select a point. You see the two reference lines that that we've put there, the center line and then the circle diameter allows us to locate the hole exactly where we need it. And this is a non-seated hole. In other words, it's just a plain hole. There's no counter bore. And we will enter in the diameter should be 12 millimeters. And this one has a specific depth that we need to use, which is 25 millimeters. And if you look at the drawing of the housing, you can see that that's got an angle drill point on it. So it's got an angled tip. So you'll definitely want to select this angle drill point. And we can click OK. So what you can do with the hole feature, which is nice, is you can, after you've put it on your part, you can come in here and then do a circular pattern for the feature itself. When we've done this in the past, we've done it on the sketch. So now we're going to do a circular array of this feature. So you can see the dialog box that pops up now is asking us to select a feature. So we'll zoom in and select the hole feature, and the rotation axis will be one of the circles. And the number of incidents of this hole is 6. So we're good to go. Click OK. And now if we orbit around here, we can see we have 6 equally spaced holes, and they have the angled drill point on them, which is what you're required to do. So I'm going to go ahead and hide that sketch. And now what we're going to look at is creating a new work plane. So you'll notice on this part, that there's a hole in the side. So I'd call that a side bore. And it needs to be on the right side of the part. Again, I'm looking at the isometric drawing with the dimensions that you'll be working from. It needs to be in this face of the part. Now, unfortunately, you can't put a sketch or a hole on a face that isn't flat, something that's a round cylinder like this. You can't do it. So you have to find another way, and that's where the requirement to add in a new work plane comes in. So I've expanded my origin folder over here in the browser, and I can see the default planes that are available to me. And this one in particular is the one I want. I want the YZ plane. So I'm just gonna click on it to highlight it. And then I'll come over here to this toolbar called Work Features. And if I click the drop down, you'll see this offset from plane option. And that's the one we'll select. So now I've got a dialog box that's come up and asking me what offset distance I want for my new work plane from the work plane that I selected. So I can enter in my value there. I know that the diameter of my part is 120 millimeters, so I need half of that, so I'll enter a value of 60. And there you go. So now I've got this work plane visible, and this will allow me to do my sketch for that side bore. So if I click the plane here and pops up two icons, one's create sketch, I'm going to just use that. One thing I'm going to do to help me locate this hole is use the project geometry feature that we've looked at before and select the face or the side of the cylinder. Now I have these two edges that I can do some reference geometry from. So I'm looking at the drawing and I can see that my bore is 26 millimeters from the end of the part. So I'm going to do an offset. And again, this line is it's going to be a reference line. So I'll make it a construction line. I'm going to move this dimension out of my way, and I'll come through and I'll make another reference line. This is going to go from one edge to the other. Hit escape and we'll click on there and make that a center line. Now I have the point right here where I can locate my hole. And when you're sketching on a work plane like this, because it's not the face of a part, you can't use the hole feature. At least that's my experience. So you'll have to sketch it, which is not too arduous. We'll make two circles, one for the main bore and one for the counter bore. So I know that the diameter of my bore is 16 millimeters. So I'll enter that. And then I'll do another circle for the counter bore, which is 30 millimeters in diameter. So there we go. Now we can finish the sketch and we can do two separate extrusions. So we'll do the main bore first. So I'm selecting the faces that make up that bore. I'm going to make this cut. And if I look at my drawing, I can see that my part will be hollow. So when you do yours, you should do the main bore that runs from this face into the part first, so you know how deep this side bore needs to be. In my case, I can look at this drawing and say, okay, I know it goes into the part, but not through, but definitely into the other bore that's running perpendicular. So I'll stick with that value of 50. I'm just going to extrude that. And now I will do another extrusion. And I'm going to come in, open my sketch that I just did. I'll make that visible. And we'll do our counter bore extrusion. So select profiles. We want that one and that one. We want it as a cut, and the drawing tells us that this will be 8 millimeters deep. Okay, so 8's the distance, and click OK. Now I'll come back to the browser. I will hide my sketch, and I will also hide the work plane. That work plane will sit there visible until you go in and hide it. So there you go, the sketch is gone, the work plane is gone. We know that we still need to do the main bore of this part, but I would leave that to you to figure out. And I'm looking at the housing. Okay, one thing I do want to show you with the housing part is fillets. We haven't looked at fillets before, so I'm going to go ahead and start a new drawing and a new sketch. I will use this plane, and I'm going to start sketching for my housing. And I just want to get to a point where I can actually show you how the fillet tool works. So I'm drawing a circle, and I want to make the circle 96 millimeters. I'll zoom out to see what we've done. And now we'll draw a line. This is going to be a construction line. And that needs to be, oh, bear with me. I'm going to look over here at my other copy of this drawing. Okay, that's going to be 116 millimeters. Come back in here. (116) divided by 2, I want 58. Okay, and before I forget, select this line and I'll make it a center line. So I know it's just a piece of reference geometry. Now for my little bolt hole flange, I'm going to do one of these, and the center, the through hole is 10 millimeters in diameter. So we'll draw that. Body is a radius of 12, so that will be 24 millimeter diameter. And now we are drawing one line, two lines are in. They're not fully constrained, so we'll get the tangent constraint. There we go. Now obviously we need to do a little bit of trimming here. So I will use the trim tool and trim out this circle. Okay. You see I lost some of my constraints, so I'll come and put a dimension on these items. I might try dimensioning this, but it might say it's over constrained. We'll see. Okay, we're good to go. So what we haven't seen yet in the sketching environment is how the fillet tool works. It's right here. I click that. A box comes up asking me for the radius for the fillet. And if I look back at my drawing, I can see that that should be 4. Now I will want to select the lines that'll get filleted. In this case, it's those. I might as well go ahead and just show you the circular pattern for this. I know we've touched on it, but we'll just go through it again since we're here. So we want to select the geometry that we know we'll have to get a rayed around this circle in 4 different places. We'll put in 4. We want those 4 to be spaced around the full 360 degrees of the circle. So we can click OK. Sketch is almost done. It just needs some trimming. So we'll come through and trim these. Once the trimmings happened, you can see that some of the constraining has been lost. And typically you can get it back by coming in here with the constraint tool. Although not that one, it didn't like it. It said it was going to over constrain it, so I'll try it here. And over here. Let's see if it lets us do it there. No. Come in with the dimension. And that's done the job. So now we have the fully constrained sketch. And if I finish the sketch, zoom out, I'd be able to, if I had this internal bore, I would be able to extrude the sketch towards me. And looking at the drawing, that would come towards me 12 millimeters. And I would also be able to use the same sketch to extrude the main body of my housing. So if I went away from me, 48 millimeters minus 12, that's 36. That would be the basis for the part. I would basically have it all done except for the 4 through holes I can see that are at the back of that part, as well as there's also a 45 millimeter bore at the back of the part. I'm not going to show you everything. I just did certainly want to show you the circular pattern for the sketch and the filleting. I found that you should do that fillet before you do the array pattern around the circle, okay? So that's important to remember. When I did the array first and then tried to come back and do the fillet, I had issues. So changing the sequence of steps worked for me. So I would recommend that you use that same sequence. Okay, thanks for watching.